Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on the social sciences, humanities, and the arts in European R&I. My name is Joel Graf. I'm a national contact point at Euresearch Network Office, and I am organizing this event today together with my colleague, Hannah Estadier, who is an event manager at Euresearch. So today we are going to look back. We're going to look back to Horizon 2020, the current framework program on European R&I, and we will also have a look into the future. We will look at Horizon Europe, the upcoming framework program, which has again a lot of funding opportunities. We will also discuss the last funding opportunity on the Horizon 2020, which is the Green Deal call. So I would like to start with some technical issues. This webinar will be recorded, and you will, of course, then also get the link to this recording as well as the presentation we will give. And then you can ask your questions in the chat. You can put anything there. Also, if you have technical issues, we will try to solve them. And last but not least, we will also have a survey in the end, and it would be great if you could answer it, because this really helps also to improve our services. I have to go back, and I would like to start with a short introduction of our organization, the Euresearch. As you can see, it is a network. We have offices all over Switzerland. Those are the so-called Euresearch offices in the regions. And there the colleagues have like a general overview over the different funding opportunities on a European scale. And they can also very well provide you with information when it comes to questions of how do I submit an application on the Horizon 2020 or Horizon Europe funding portal. Legal and financial issues are handled by the regions, offices in the regions. And then we have also the Euresearch Network office in Bern, and I am working there as a national contact point. And the national contact points, they're really responsible content-wise for the different thematic areas of the European R&I funding program. So I am responsible for the social sciences, humanities, and the arts. I'm also responsible for a program which is called Science with and for Society, which covers issues of gender, ethics, science communication, and so on. And I am also responsible for the civil security program. So the main message here is really that Euresearch is there for you. Please contact us either at the Euresearch office in the region or directly at the Euresearch Network office, and we will be very happy also to attend you. And we have also, you have also the possibility to subscribe to your services, to have a profile on the Euresearch website, and then you will receive e-alerts, newsletters, and so on. You will be really up to date of what is going to come in the future on European R&I. So, as I stated, Horizon 2020, as the name says, ends this year officially, and we have to say bye. We will have some insights by our guest speaker. I'm very happy that she is here, Kimberly Kufson-Liebe from the Net for Society project. I will introduce her later on, and she will tell us about some lessons learned in Horizon 2020 when it comes to collaborative R&I for the social sciences, humanities, and the arts. I would like to state here that today we are really going to focus on collaborative projects. So it's not the ERC or Microsoft Curie and actions that are in the center, but that are really collaborative projects. By Horizon 2020, but it's not over yet, because we have one last big funding instrument under Horizon 2020, and this is the so-called Green Deal call. It's a 1 billion euro call, which has been launched by the European Commission this year. And it has a deadline to 26th of January next year, still on the horizon 2020. And you as Swiss participants, you can participate under this Green Deal. And I will later on focus a bit more on the specific funding opportunities under this Green Deal call. By Horizon 2020, but high Horizon Europe, and this is of course also very important today, have a look at what is going to come in the future. Horizon Europe, the next European Research and Innovation Program, it's actually the 9th framework program, and it lasts until 2027. This is a general overview, and you will see this picture several times today. And those that know the Horizon 2020 program probably see here a lot of similarities. So we have still the ERC projects, Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, and then Pillar 2 is all about collaborative research, and Pillar 3 is then more about innovation. And we will focus today on this cluster, which is the Culture, Creativity and Inclusive Society program, which is all about collaborative research for social sciences, humanities, and the arts. Some general information already now on Horizon Europe. As you may know, the status of Switzerland is not yet finally clarified. So we are really aiming at being fully associated to Horizon Europe. However, negotiations with the European Commission are ongoing, but the good message is that for those topics we are going to discuss today, so for the collaborative project, it's very, very probable that all Swiss legal entities can be part of those projects from the beginning, can be part of those calls as of 2021. And if you have more questions or if you have doubts, you can either, of course, ask me directly in the chat about it, and I will be happy to try to answer the questions as good as possible later on. Or you can also go to the Q&A of the State Secretariat for Education, Research and Innovation, the SERI. Before I come now to possible first questions, I would like to launch a poll with 2 questions. So the first one is on your academic or professional background, just to see what kind of participants we have today. And the second one is about whether you have already experiences in European R. And I thank you, Hannah, for launching this poll. So please answer it now. So still answers are coming in. We have 46 of 54. Great. Okay, Hannah, I think you can release the results. Okay, could you share the poll results, Hannah?
They should be visible. Yeah,
okay, it states that attendees are not viewing the poll results, but I hope that they are visible. Maybe, Hannah, can you have a look at the chat? Are they visible? I can participate, see it. I cannot see the chat, so Hannah.
They are saying that it's visible.
Oh, great. Okay, that's good to know. Great, then let's have a look. So most of the participants have a background in social sciences, also quite a lot of humanities, and I'm very happy that we have also some people with arts backgrounds, citizen science as well, and others as well. And then have you ever been involved in European R&I projects? It's almost 50-50. So this is also very good to see that a lot of you have been already involved in one kind of another in European projects. And it's also nice to have, of course, some newcomers here. Great. So I think we can then stop the poll. And Hannah, are there some first questions which are very urgent? Otherwise, I would start with our guest speaker.
Good morning, everyone, from my part as well. I don't see any questions so far, so we can just continue.
Great. Then it's my great pleasure to introduce my colleague, Kimberly Kufson-Liebe. She is a national contact point, and she's responsible for the same area as I am, but she is working for the German authorities. And she is also very much involved in our national contact point project, the Net for Society project, which aims to bring together the different national contact points for the social sciences, humanities, and the arts all over Europe and beyond. And of course, the aim is also to have the best services for you as the clients. And Kimberly has worked for quite a few years already now as a Societal Challenge 6 national contact point in Germany. As I stated, she's also active in the Net for Society project. Her academic background, I think that's also interesting to know. She has an academic background in anthropology. She holds a Bachelor of the University of Washington in Seattle. She has a Master's of Arts of the Harvard University, again in East Asian regional studies, and a PhD in sociocultural anthropology from Cornell University. She is fluent in German and English, but also in Mandarin, which I think is quite impressive. And she will tell us now about some lessons learned of Horizon 2020 when it comes to the social sciences, the humanities, and the arts. And Kimberly, you will certainly also give us already a first outlook on what is going to come in Horizon Europe. So I'm very happy that you are here today with us. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to now make my slides visible. Just a moment, please. Okay. So thank you, Joelle, very much for that kind introduction. Hello, everyone from Bonn. I hope that you all are doing well. Before I start, I would just like to ask two quick questions. First of all, can you see my slides and can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we cannot see your slides.
Okay, so let me try again. I definitely, here we go.
Looks good now. Great,
Okay.
We can see its slides, thanks.
Okay, fantastic. All right, I'm just gonna make it bigger. There we go. Okay, so for my presentation today, I would like to provide you with a brief introduction to the topic of SSH integration, or more specifically, the inclusion of social scientific and humanities-oriented research in EU framework programs for research and innovation. As Joelle mentioned, I will first and foremost be talking about this in the context of the current research framework program, Horizon 2020, but I will also give you a little bit of insight as to how that will look in the next framework program, Horizon Europe. The reason I'm talking to you today about this topic is because SSH integration is actually a very important concern for the European Commission. It's something that has been identified as crucial in helping to solve global problems. It's also very important that you understand what that means. So essentially what I'm going to do, I'm going to take you through a presentation that I've divided into 3 parts. To begin, I'm going to talk to you essentially about SSH integration as a dedicated element of the European Research Framework Program. I'm also going to talk to you in terms of this topic, in terms of it being a cross-cutting policy issue. And I will finish up by discussing a couple of lessons which have been learned over the course of the H2020 program, and how this whole process can be somewhat improved as we move forward. So, as Joel mentioned, we're currently in the Horizon 2020 program. This program has been running for 7 years. It's due to end at the end of this year, December 31st. And it is divided into a structure of 3 pillars. Some of you may already be familiar with this, but I'm just going to mention it very quickly. The first pillar has to do with the topic of excellent science. Here you would find the Marie Curie, the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, as well as the RC grants. We also have the industrial leadership pillar. And then the pillar which is most important for our discussion today is the third, and that is the societal challenges, because it is here that we encounter the societal challenge 6, which goes by the topic of Europe in a changing world, inclusive, innovative, and reflective societies, because this is essentially where research conducted and focused on the social sciences and humanities, as well as the arts, is located within the Horizon 2020 program. But beyond this one dedicated program area, you also will find social sciences and humanities research throughout the entirety of Horizon 2020. And so that's what this larger red frame, or I should say marker, indicates. The reason why we have societal challenges is because they are essentially policy areas that the European Commission has identified which really need dedicated answers provided by research. And so in the case of Societal Challenge 6, there has been a really strong emphasis on research focused on solving problems related to economic growth, really looking at the social and cultural and economic dimensions of what this growth requires. Also trying to understand the role of cultural heritage, how that is tied to European identity, as well as a focus on democracy and democratic governance and how that can be strengthened so that Europe will be as competitive as possible. And you will find sort of similar types of policy foci in the different challenges, in the different pillar areas. In total, there has been 1.3 billion euros dedicated to Societal Challenge 6 over the course of Horizon 2020, which has actually allowed for the funding of quite a number of projects in this area. Move to the next slide. In terms of Horizon Europe, which will be starting in 2021, so January 2021, we will once again encounter a dedicated program area for social sciences and humanities research, so SSH research. This will be found in the second pillar. Second pillar will no longer go under the name of societal challenges. Instead, it will be identified by the name Global Challenges and European and Industrial Competitiveness. Nonetheless, you will still encounter many of the same types of policy issues as you did in the societal challenges in this pillar. Most important to understand is that there will continue to be a dedicated topical area. This will be cluster 2, and this cluster goes by the name of Culture, Creativity, and Inclusive Society. Currently, we still don't know exactly how much budget will be dedicated to this because it's currently something that is being discussed in Parliament, but hopefully we will know soon, latest by the end of the year. I'm not going to go too much into a discussion of Horizon Europe because that's more of what Joel plans to focus on today. But this is just to give you an idea of what it will look like in the next framework program, because besides a dedicated program area for the social sciences and humanities, we will once again also encounter SSH research as a dimension of the entirety of the Horizon Europe framework program. So as I mentioned, Societal Challenge 6 is the dedicated research program in Horizon 2020. And what this means is that from the beginning of the program to the end, there has been the publication of a work program where researchers have had the opportunity to apply for funding on certain topics. One thing I didn't mention is that our challenge, as with all the challenges and with the upcoming clusters, are top down. And what that means essentially is that in the work programs, researchers would encounter topics for funding opportunities which have been predetermined, not necessarily prescribed in terms of what a project has to essentially do, but it gives the parameters of the type of research which is being asked for by the commission. And that one would find in a work program. Over the years, there have been a number of topics which have been focused on in these work programs, and you see here a list of what they are. Although the program started in 2014, I focused more specifically starting from 2016 because these topics are much more of what you will actually see also as we move into Horizon Europe. In particular, the topic of migration, governance, and this focus on transformations of a cultural and socio-economic nature, these will be echoed in the upcoming framework program. So, SSH integration, what is it exactly? So first and foremost, SSH integration is really a policy issue. It's really a topic that the Commission has focused on because they recognize that the types of problems that this framework program intends to answer are these grand societal challenges. And they're ones that cannot be solved by a single discipline alone. Therefore, they have seen it as very important that disciplines and projects go beyond just their disciplinary boundaries and they work together with one another in order to provide solutions. As you see here, it is something that is seen as essential, and that's why it pops up over and over throughout the framework program. But first and foremost, when one thinks about what that is, it is in fact a methodological approach that's based on interdisciplinarity. So how has SSH integration actually kind of manifested itself in Horizon 2020? Well, when we think in terms of how it's actually been done, it's been done via a process of flagging. Some of you may know what this is, but for those who are not familiar with this term, flagging essentially means the active identification of topics with what is considered significant or relevant social, scientific, economics, humanities, or arts involvement. And this takes many different forms. It's not one single thing that is always identified, but it's essentially usually the need for a specific type of expertise coming from a field or a discipline within the humanities or social science that would help illuminate some aspect of a problem that's been identified in a topic text. I'm showing you this slide because it gives you an image of the Commission's Funding and Tender Opportunities portal. I'm not showing you this in terms of telling you how to actually use the portal, but more so to give you an idea of where these flagged topics are found and how you find them. So essentially what the Commission has done is when you go to the search function and you select the Horizon 2020 program, then you can choose essentially any part of the program. So for example, Societal Challenge 6, and that will help take you to all the calls which are currently open in that area of the program. And then from there, it will allow you to learn more and ultimately apply. But you can also look for SSH opportunities in other parts of the program. And you do that by basically going to this drop-down menu, saying, for example, you want to look at what are the opportunities in the ICT dimension of the framework program. And then you would go to the cross-cutting priority drop-down list. And here you would choose socioeconomic, sciences, and humanities. And then from there, when you click upon the grant itself, it will explain what is being asked for in terms of disciplinary intervention. I put this slide up because Net for Society, the project in which I work in, has been actively involved in supporting this process of flagging opportunities for social scientists and humanists, as well as those involved in the arts who have an interest in participating in Horizon 2020. What we've done over the course of the project is regularly compile and publish a document known as the Opportunities document. This document can be found on our project website, and essentially what it does is it goes slightly beyond what the Commission has done in its flagging on the portal of opportunities, and it really looks very closely at all opportunities within Horizon 2020 that may be of interest, and it does so almost on a sliding scale, where it starts with really those of greatest relevance to those that might have some relevance. So it's something that has been very well received over the years. People have been quite happy that they don't necessarily have to look for themselves, but they have a guide to help them. And unfortunately, there is no current opportunities document for 2020, primarily because there was no additional call planned. We did not do one for the Green Deal call because that was something that was much later, and also because of the really specific sort of focus of the Green Deal call. But nonetheless, that's something that is very useful. In addition to the opportunities document, we also have been actively involved as a project in monitoring other SSH opportunities within other EU programs. For example, the AIR initiatives. And these results we regularly publish on our website. And as a last aid to researchers, we also have been producing fact sheets on the topic of successful SSH integration, which is shown here with the image on the right. And the reason we've done this is because we want people to understand, how does this actually work in practice and what do you need to do? And this brings me to my next slide. So in terms of what worked well with this whole process of SSH integration is the fact that more and more budget has been dedicated to SSH topics over the course of Horizon 2020, which is a great thing, because that once again reinforces the understanding that the contributions that social scientists, humanists, and those from the arts have to offer are important. What's great also is that the majority of the Directorate Generals, so in our case, Director General for Research and DG RTD or DG Connect, which is more focused on the ICT dimensions of research, they have been actively involved over the course of the framework program in flagging topics within their work areas, their work programs for SSH researchers. And lastly, there has been the establishment of a regular monitoring process, and this has resulted in what is known as the monitoring report. Currently, there are 4 reports which have been published. The most recent focused on topics which were flagged, so based on SSH. In Horizon 2020, in the other social challenges, up until 2017. We are expecting the publication of a 5th of these monitoring reports, which will cover up to 2018. And beyond just what has been funded based on SSH integration and the other challenges, this is also looking at the entirety. So what was the case with Marie Curie, ERC, and so on. But this 5th monitoring report, unfortunately, we don't know just yet when it will be published, but once published, it will also be made available on the Net for Society website. So although I just mentioned what worked well, which were many things, there's also been certain aspects of the process that have not worked quite as well. And probably the main thing that has been difficult when it comes to the process of SSH integration is the fact that it's not yet well established what this actually means when it comes to projects and how they need to look in order to make this happen. One reason for that is that researchers coming from the social sciences and humanities, their expertise is not always recognized. And it's often being a little bit oriented too much to, say, administrative tasks, which is not really what is intended by this process. As we saw in the poll, it's really fantastic that there are so many social scientists here today, which means that you have a great interest, and there's also been a really good response in terms of topics published for you in the various work programs within Societal Challenge 6. However, even though that's the case, there needs to still be more topics related to the humanities so that there's more resonance and more opportunities for participation from researchers coming from fields like philosophy, philology, etc. As I mentioned, although the Director Generals have been participating, this participation has been somewhat uneven. Lastly, there still tends to be too many topics flagged as requiring SSH involvement, yet it's not the type of involvement that I think the majority of you as researchers would understand as SSH involvement. So I come now to my last slide, and this is basically what can really be improved. And I'm speaking now really from the perspective of Net for Society, because as I said, as a project, we've been really intimately involved in trying to promote SSH integration within our community, but also more broadly during the course of the framework program. The first thing we need is really a clear and a more stable definition of what SSH integration should be. And that means essentially stating that it's actually a form of transdisciplinary or interdisciplinary research, and also asking that it be indicated in the topic titles or in the topic texts themselves as to what form this specifically needs to take when we're talking about, do we need an anthropologist? Do we need a historian? What is the role that they need? Once again, texts need to be a little bit more clearly written so that it's obvious from the get-go what is being asked for. We also feel it's important that SSH researchers be involved from the very start so that you can be there in the process of designing the research as a way to help define the roles that you will ultimately take in your program or in your projects. We're also looking to ask the Commission that this involvement of SSH be made an actual evaluation criteria. And the reason we want to do this is because that, we hope, will help deter projects from thinking, okay, maybe we can just cover this ourselves, when in fact they really do need to have an SSH researcher there. And when I say projects and SSH, what I mean is that this SSH integration has really been aimed at bringing together researchers from science, technology, engineering, and mathematics with those from the social sciences and humanities, so that you have a much more holistic and more, yeah, I guess you could say deeply thought through approach to solving the problems which we're facing. We also feel that it's really important that more experts coming from the various SSH disciplines be involved in the strategic program committee, because this is the committee that essentially helps define the work programs. And as a last point, we really feel it's important that the dedicated areas that I mentioned within Horizon Europe as well as in Horizon 2020, be continued for any future research programs. And the way that we're actually, as a project, planning to share these recommendations with the Commission will be through the publication of a policy paper, which we are currently in the process of writing. So all of these lessons we do plan to share in the effort of further supporting you as researchers and making sure that you have as many opportunities as possible. So I would like to just thank you very much for listening to my presentation today, and I will be here until the end should you have any questions.
Thanks a lot, Kimberly. This was a great overview of what has been done in Horizon 2020. I think also the issue of SSH integration, or we could also say SSHA integration to include the arts as well, is very important. And also regarding the upcoming framework program, Horizon Europe. We have one question in the chat on the possibilities for individual applications for funding, whether there is any restriction based on nationality. Is there a PhD degree required to apply? So I would say this is about the collaborative research projects you just mentioned. So maybe you can say us something about possible restrictions or who can participate.
Sure, no problem. In terms of eligibility in Horizon 2020, there's a basic set of rules. So essentially what the Commission asked for in terms of collaborative projects or consortium project is that there be 3 partners coming from 3 different either member states, European member states, or associated countries, and that these come from independent organizations. So not necessarily all from the same university, but they could be from different, or they ask that they would be from either a research organization, a university, something like that. I guess in terms of nationality, the nationality is essentially, nationality is not necessarily a criteria, but you should understand that in the context of this 3x3 rule, because there are sometimes cases where third countries or non-EU member states or associated countries can participate in the framework program, but you have to look very closely at the call because it will be indicated there. There was a second dimension to the question, sorry. It was not just the nationality, but also PhD. Yeah, not necessarily. It is often the case that in these consortium projects, you have PhD candidates, for example, involved as part of the project, because often they end up doing their PhD on some dimension of the project. So it isn't per se a requirement, but it's something I would say if you're thinking you want to be the principal investigator, of course, you already have to be more established as an academic in order to do that. Being an early career PhD, maybe someone who just got the degree and is a first-year postdoc, that might be a bit too soon. If that's the case, then it's better you look, for example, in Pillar 1, the Excellent Science pillar, to either the Marie Curie, the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, or the ERC grants, because it's here where actually there's more focus on individual research.
Thanks a lot, Kimberly. This was very clear, and I will possibly also come back to these issues in my presentation, which is now really about the Green Deal call and Horizon Europe concrete funding opportunities. Hannah, do you have something to add?
Yes, I wanted to draw your attention to the fact we have one more question in the chat.
Okay, could you ask it, because I cannot see it right now? What is the question?
How are the arts, for example, design research reflected in the policy paper? And can SSH be expanded into SSHA?
Great question. Yeah, thank you. We have actually taken the question of the arts up in the paper because we do see it as also being an important dimension of the type of research that is required to help solve these these large global challenges which have been identified. In terms of the specifics, it's really what we plan to do essentially is indicate that arts are important because they help to really forecast. There's more visionary in a certain sense in terms of what societies might need. We do this also because we have seen an evolution within the work programs over the last few years of the inclusion of more topics for the arts, but we still feel like it's not enough. So we're just trying to continue to push that envelope so that there's more opportunities, because we feel that your inclusion and your contribution also has value.
Thanks a lot, Kimberly. So we are a bit behind schedule, so I will go on with my part about concrete funding opportunities, and I start with the Green Deal call. As I mentioned, this is the last Horizon 2020 call on the issue of the Green Deal. So of course, climate change is very important, but you can see all the different areas related to this challenge. And for you as researchers or other stakeholders with background in social sciences, humanities, and the arts, the area 10 is really of importance because there are specific topics which are tackling the societal dimension of the Green Deal call. Of course, you will find everywhere in every area aspects of the social sciences, a bit less about humanities and the arts, but a lot again about citizen participation. But I will now focus on area 10. Just to mention also that we have also an overview of all the topics, and if you click on this document in the presentation you're going to receive afterwards, you will have be redirected to the dedicated homepage. So this is just to give you an overview of all the topics in all the areas. But I'm now going to focus, I start with some basic information about actually what collaborative EU projects are. And Kimberly already mentioned some aspects, but I think it's important to remember them. It's really about top-down, a top-down approach. So it's not that you can come up with a brilliant idea and then ask for money. This is the case for the ERC, for example. It's really, you have to identify the right topic, as you will see later on, and then you have to write your proposal accordingly. You have to work with other partners together. Kimberly mentioned that already. There are minimum requirements. Often the consortia for the social science, humanities, and the arts, they have between 8 and maybe 15 partners. It's also important that there is a big difference between being a coordinator of such a project. That means that you have real responsibility to write the proposal, to bring all the stakeholders together, to manage the consortium, also to report towards the European Commission. This is quite tricky. It's nice also because you can, of course, you have a lot of influence, but if you are a newcomer, it's probably easier to start as a partner. And there actually, even though you might have heard that those projects are very complicated and so on, it's not complicated at all often. So if you find a coordinator who is willing to take you aboard your specific expertise, then sometimes, within 1 week, you're done with your input to the proposal. But of course, big challenge is here. How do I find the coordinator? And we'll come back to that issue later on. And then we have different types of actions. This is not that important in this context, just to tell you that there is also, let's say, a different approach on how to carry out the project. So is it more really about research, creating of new knowledge, or is it really about, having pilots, having maybe even products closer to the market, or is it mainly about coordination and support actions? So let's now come to the Green Deal. I will go through it quite quickly. We have these 3 topics on the area 10, and we have 1 on European capacities for citizen deliberation and participation for the Green Deal. This is about, on the one side, establishing transnational networks of experts in this field of citizen deliberation. I think Switzerland has here a lot of resources. If we think about our research on, let's say, direct democracy, and the topic is also about sharing good practices, tools and resources in order to implement really these participatory and deliberation processes. So this is a project with a budget of between 3 and 5 million euro, and the deadline is in the end of January 2021. I wrote here it's actually the 26th of January 2021, the exact deadline. And important references, I won't go to details here, but it's just important to know that you also have to have the policy documents in mind. And in this case, amongst others, it are the Sustainable Development Goals. This is the second topic in the Green Deal call on behavioral, social, and cultural change for the Green Deal. It is about behavioral change at different levels, and again about establishing these networks of experts in this field. So this is certainly of interest for psychologists and sociologists and so on. So have a look at it if you have expertise in these fields. Again, important references about, amongst other Sustainable Development Goals. And the last topic I would like to mention within the Green Deal, it's actually, there are two topics, two subtopics. It's about citizens that should be enabled to act on climate change, sustainable development, through education, but also about, it's also about citizen science here. So we have two topics. One is really about education, a focus on education here, also creating a framework with in order to implement concrete actions for education on climate change. And the second topic is in enabling citizens to act on climate change through better monitoring and observing of the environment. So this is really about more classic citizen science, citizens that are doing science themselves or supporting science, for example, through observation. So those are innovation actions. It means those are actions that have to have already pilots, concrete pilots in the field. This is the case for subtopic 1, where you have to have some actions on education actually implemented during the project. And in the second case, it's amongst others also to create devices, for example, could be the apps or whatever, in order to help actually citizens to get more involved in science, research and innovation, and support actually also research and innovation for the Green Deal. There are different references. Don't go into detail there, but you can have a look at it when you get the presentation. Of course, you will also have all the information on the funding and tenders portal with the exact topic text and so on. So I'll go now quickly to Horizon Europe. This is again the picture you have seen already. And if we talk about collaborative research, it's really this cluster which is very important. I will discuss it in a minute. Just for you to know, again, there will be ERC actions again. There will be Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions again, which are of course open for researchers with a background in social sciences, humanities, and the arts. However, for the pillar 1, we do not know exactly what the status of Switzerland will be. So probably, unfortunately, you will not be able to start there in the beginning of 21 on those ERC and Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions. You will be able to participate, however, under the pillar 2 actions on the collaborative research. You will get money either from the European Commission or directly from the Swiss State Secretary for Education, Research and Innovation. So this is an important message for pillar 2. You will be able to participate independently from the status of Switzerland as an associated or partially associated country on the Horizon 2020. And of course, well, there's a small program here, Reform Enhancing European R&I System, which is more on gender, citizen science, science education, and so on, I wanted to mention. And of course, SSH integration or SSHA integration, as Kimberly mentioned, will be there again in Horizon Europe, and it will be very similar as in Horizon 2020. So that's also why it was so helpful, Kimberly, that you showed us the different instruments also to find the right topics here. Let's now go to the cluster 2 and the main challenges. Cluster 2 is what has been Societal Challenge 6 on the Horizon 2020, a specific program for issues on society's challenges in society, and it's mainly of interest for researchers and other stakeholders, can also be NGOs and so on, with background social science, humanities, and the arts. We have here 3 main areas. One is on governance, one is on cultural heritage, and one is on economic and social transformations. And if you know a bit Horizon 2020, you see the continuity. Those have also already been important thematic areas on the Horizon 2020. We have here, well, the first intervention area in democracy and governance. Won't go into details because I will show you some concrete topics in a minute. Cultural heritage, some keywords, and also social and economic transformations. And I would like to skip here the details and go directly to what we know to date, what is public to date. And it's actually very nice that the European Commission is quite transparent on the process in drafting the topics for Horizon Europe. This is still an ongoing process, so we have not official calls already for Horizon Europe. This is under negotiation, but we know already what is probably going to come. We know what is discussed at this moment, and you will find this information in a presentation of the European Commission, which is publicly available. If you click here on this picture, you will have all the information. And I would like to go through it very quickly right now. As we have not a lot of time, I will do it really quickly. So we have this first intervention area on democracy and governance, and you will find here for 2021, probably, these are still drafts, but it's very probable that those topics will pop up. A topic on representative democracy, so certainly of interest for Switzerland, who has a lot of expertise there. Sorry. Go back. Topics on inequalities and democracy, liberalism and democracy, economic models and democracies, feminism and democracy, global governance. We had such a topic already on the Horizon 2020 on global governance. And then politics in the EU neighborhood and governance in a post-pandemic world. So this is a clear link to the whole COVID situation we are in right now. This has been the first, let's say, thematic area. The second one is about cultural heritage of specific interest for the humanities, for the arts. As you can see here, the first one is on green technologies for cultural heritage. This is also a follow-up, certainly, of the Green Deal call I just mentioned. Protection of artifacts and cultural goods, climate change and natural hazards and cultural heritage. Then we have the management and financing of cultural institutions and museums. We have an interesting topic on games and culture, and another topic on European cultural heritage research and innovation and the coordination of those research and innovation among member states. But here, certainly, Switzerland is also part of such a coordination action. We have then the cultural heritage, still on the cultural heritage, the creative industries as drivers of innovation. So here the arts are coming in, and then cultural heritage and digital technologies. This is, of course, also very important. And we had also topics on these issues on the Horizon 2020 already. Migration is an issue under the social and economic transformation area. So this is the third area. Work and social protection, aging societies, very big challenges, inequality again, and poor learning outcomes, early school living. This is also of interest, I would say, not only for, let's say, classic universities, but also for universities of teacher education that can also participate. And then again, education and training and the link to emerging technologies, employment and supply chain and trade issues. This have been, really very quickly the most important thematic areas. So if you are interested in one of those, do not hesitate to come back to me and we can discuss already now what is probably going to come and how you can prepare. And we have also, what is very important, the policy recommendations. So also always for this top-down collaborative project, the policies on the EU level are very important to know on the EU or even a global level, as is the case for the SDGs. And on the EU level, we have a lot of other, agenda strategies and so on that should be taken into account. And with this, I would like to come to to a last point, it's very important. It is about partner search and networks. I mean, collaborative research innovation is really about working with other stakeholders in Europe, but also beyond Europe, and the network is absolutely key. And if you are not a coordinator, but rather a partner, and maybe you have not the network yet, it's really important how to get in contact with the different possible partners or project coordinators. It's a very tricky issue, and we have not a lot of time to go into detail here, but I would like nevertheless to show you some examples, and I will do that by going directly to the browser, which I will share now. So first of all, when it comes to the Green Deal call, so partnering now not only for Horizon Europe, but already for the Green Deal call, visit our website, dedicated website on euresearch.ch. And there we have really an overview of partnering platforms. Have a look at those platforms where you will find potential partners. Yesterday, there has been a brokerage event, which is a networking event on the European Green Deal. Have a look at this. Here you can really go to the marketplace and will find for your specific topic, you will find potential partners or coordinators. So go to this website and you can here look, for example, if you're interested in, let's say, behavioral, social, and cultural change, click here and you will have here a whole list of possible partners. Very important also is the Cordis database for partnering issues, because here you will see all the projects that have previously received funding under Horizon 2020, and also all the previous framework programs, FP7, FP6, and so on. So just to give you an example here, if you're interested in democracy and youth, just put it here and you will get a list of all the projects. Sorry, I'll go back here. For example, this project on youth and democracy, reinventing democracy in Europe, youth doing politics in times of the increasing inequalities. Go to this project, you will have an abstract of the project, but most important, you will have an overview of the partners, who has been successful, who is in this project right now. For example, University of Geneva, it's actually Marco Giuni, who is the coordinator of this project. And you can contact him directly here also under contact the organization. So I think this is very important as well. I will go back now to my PowerPoint slides. And I will share a screen exactly. And with this, I'm already coming to questions from your side. Hannah, are there any questions?
We do have a couple of questions. I
Go
do
ahead.
one by one. Do you know the timeline for cluster 2 deadlines?
No, this is a good question. We don't even know exactly when Horizon Europe will start. It's very probable that it will start in the beginning of 2021, but still budget discussions are ongoing. So it could also maybe be February, March. I don't know exactly when the first deadline will be. Could be, for example, August, September, but this is really still to be defined.
Joël, can I quickly maybe add something here?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, from what I have been informed, it could be that the first deadlines might be mid 2021, so potentially June, July.
Okay.
That was the latest information that we received, but that is still to be fully decided.
That's very. I didn't know that. Great, Kimberly. So
Sure.
maybe mid-summer to next year.
Yeah.
Next question.
Secondly, coordination won't be possible unless status is clarified, correct? And this, I can only assume, means the status of Switzerland?
Yes, exactly. Coordination will most probably be possible, even though Switzerland is not associated, would not be associated, but we don't hope. It has been possible under Horizon 2020, for the collaborative projects. But there also the rules, the exact rules for Horizon Europe have still to be defined. So it's not 100% clear yet. Maybe you can also have a look at the Q&As of the State Secretary for Research and Innovation, but I would say it should be possible even though we are not associated.
Next, we have a remark or a plea about not limiting the arts to cultural heritage. We are very engaged in enhancing democratic governance, and we need your support to be able to join in these important programs. This is from one attendee.
Very good. Yes, very important and absolutely justified.
And lastly, we have a technical issue or technical question. Could you maybe send us those links again in an email or post them in the chat? That would be helpful. And I think we can do that in the follow-up email, right?
Exactly. I already put the links in the presentation, so when you receive it, you will be able to get it. Maybe the Cordis database, it's not there yet, so maybe I can include that one.
Okay, and we have one more question that just came in. Mrs. van der Leyen talks about European Bauhaus. What does she mean exactly? And obviously, design and arts have to be part of this Bauhaus research strategy. Are these good news for arts and design?
Could you repeat the question? Who is referring to this art Bauhaus issues?
Mrs. von der Leyen, I can imagine.
Von der Leyen. Okay,
yes.
the president of the
President
European
of the Commission. Yeah.
Yes, I think this is certainly something that helps very much if you have the support, let's say, of if you have a statement at the European Commission. Most probably, you will find specific topics on these issues back in the work programs of Horizon Europe. And certainly the whole, let's say, Bauhaus issue, architecture, is very important for cultural heritage. So I suppose you could even already, with such an expertise, you could already participate under one of the topics I mentioned in 2021.
And that concludes our questions.
Thanks. Thanks a lot, Hannah. So I hope you have still 5 minutes left. I'm sorry we are a bit behind schedule, but I'm very happy that there have been those questions, which are very important. Well, I'm coming now to the wrap up. I would like to make it quick again. I think what we learned is that there is quite a continuity between Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe. I think what we also learned is that there are opportunities for the social sciences, humanities, and the arts. There is some uncertainty when it comes, to the schemes of ERC Marie Curie, because the status of Switzerland is not yet decided. But the good message is that for those topics we presented today, Switzerland will be able to participate. Swiss stakeholders will be able to participate. I think this is an important message. Another important message is, and maybe it has not been mentioned so explicitly yet, what makes European R&I so special from my point of view is that not only researchers can participate, but also NGOs, also SMEs, also public administration. Everyone is able to participate if there is an expertise, at least for the collaborative projects. Every stakeholder that has expertise can be part of a consortium, and this is something which you won't find in Switzerland. There is no funding scheme for this on such a scale in Switzerland. So this transdisciplinarity is really something very special of Horizon 2020, but of course also for Horizon Europe. I think this is a very important statement. This makes European R&I so special that you can really also work with stakeholders from the practice. And I would like to mention, ERC has not been so in the focus today, but I'm sure some of you are interested in it. There will be a webinar on SSHA in the ERC on the 28th of January 2021. We do not have yet a website, an event website, but if you register on our Euresearch webpage, you will certainly receive very soon more concrete information. So this is a save to date. And this is a survey which will actually, the link will pop up as soon as you end your presentation, as soon as you go out of this webinar. you will be redirected to the survey, so please fill it in. It would be very helpful for us. And now, Hannah, if you could maybe launch the last poll, because I have one final poll.
We also have one more question. If you
Yes,
want
please.
to take...
Yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned that we could not apply for the Marie Skłodowska-Curie scholarship, if I understood correctly. Could you please specify once again why?
No, this is actually not defined yet. It's just that the first pillar with the ERC and the individual fellowships of the Marie Curie actions, those are funding schemes where you have to be associated as country. You have either to be a European member state or you have to be associated. And the whole process of negotiation, negotiating the association of Switzerland to Horizon Europe has still to start. So most probably, you know, if the first calls are coming in the beginning of 2021, most probably it won't be able to join already there the calls, but this is also not set in stone, and I'm also not the expert for those schemes. So please also ask my colleagues of the ERC team and this Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions if you would like to have more information, and have a look at the Q&A I mentioned several times. So such questions are answered there very precisely.
Then we had two more attendees giving a precision on the previous question we had on the Bauhaus. That this would be future oriented, that von der Leyen means the whole new horizon and sees it as a new European Bauhaus movement. I just wanted to point that out because we had that.
Very good.
Yeah. Then do we go to the poll?
Yes, please go to the poll, and this is a poll on actually what you are going to do in the future. If you are interested in participating in one of those schemes I just mentioned, so are you considering participating in one of the Green Deal calls or Horizon Europe? I hope, of course, that this presentation helped to convince some of you that it might be of interest. It's also not for everyone. I understand that. And I think you can release the results, Anna. So we have some 20% that are for sure going to submit proposals. This is very nice, and a lot of maybes. So I would say, please come back to us, come back to Euresearch if you're not sure, you know, whether this is an option or not, and then we will be happy to convince you, maybe, or convince you to not do it, but normally we convince you to do it. And also some which are not interested. And I think this is also very justified. It's not for everyone. And in this sense, even if this presentation helped you to say, okay, you will probably not be able to participate, I think this is also an added value here. Okay, I think you can end the poll. And with this, I thank you very much again for your participation. I thank you for your questions. Kimberly, I thank you very much for your very nice presentations about what has been done on the Horizon 2020. Again, Euresearch is there for you. Do not hesitate to contact us for any issue. You will receive a follow-up email with the presentations, and I wish you now a very good day. Thanks a lot, and I'm looking forward to further collaboration.